Welcome back to the Impact Storytelling Podcast. I'm your host Sabinemprobst, and today I'm joined by the director of Sea Shepherd Austria, Markus Trebuch. Markus joined the organization in 2018, and since 2022, he has been filling the role of the director of Sea Shepherd Austria. Based in Vienna, he focuses on increasing public awareness in Austria, emphasizing on how ocean health affects even landlocked countries. His efforts are part of Sea Shepherd's broader mission to protect marine environments globally and engage local communities in environmental preservation activities, such as cleanups and educational campaigns. Welcome, Markus. I'm happy to have you on the podcast today. And I'm going to start with asking you if you could tell us about your journey into ocean and nature conservation and what inspired you to pursue this field.
Hi, Sabine. Thanks so much for having me. Ocean conservation. I mean, it's not the next best thing when you grow up in a landlocked country like Austria. But growing up in Austria, I always had a very, very close connection to nature. As a child, I loved to go outside. I loved to be in the woods. I loved to play outside. And I also loved to watch the show in the public TV in Austria called Universum, so Universe, and just see what's going on in nature, see what's out there, what's beyond there. And the ocean, I think, has just this strong energy for all of us because we don't see what's going on under the surface. It's out of sight, out of mind, and this is just a very strong fascination. It always was a very strong fascination for me. And 11 years ago, through a work colleague, I got to know Sea Shepherd. And she was a founding member of Sea Shepherd Austria. Sea Shepherd Austria was founded 11 years ago. And in her office at work, she had this poster with, it was basically a world map showing different species and some of the ships of Sea Shepherd and the campaigns that Sea Shepherd is doing to protect these marine species. And yeah, I was hooked. Then I started participating in cleanups with Sea Shepherd in Graz, where I was living at that moment in time. And the rest is history. I just ended up volunteering with them, and it's been the best 6 years of my life so far.
Amazing. And what is your academic or professional background? And did that help you in any way to prepare for your work with Sea Shepherd?
So my academic background is I actually studied German and history to become a teacher. That was a completely spontaneous decision because I had to start studying. So I thought, which subjects were my favorite in school? What was I good at? And so I kind of stumbled into that field. But through these studies, I met this colleague, Iris, who was founding member of Sea Shepherd Austria. So without studying German and history, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. So that is good. And of course, it helped prepare me because through my studies, I got to live in Ireland 1 year abroad, just learning about different cultures, learning and meeting new people, also learning a lot about myself. And during my studies, I was active in student politics. I was working with the Austrian Students' Union for quite some years. And of course, this experience helped working with people, managing conflicts, managing different situations, project management, and all of that is very important because by now I'm working with Sea Shepherd Global full-time as a crew coordinator. For next year, it will be 2 years. And yeah, all of these skills are direly needed in a field like that.
Yeah. And could you give us a brief overview of how Sea Shepherd started and the core goals that drive its mission today?
Yeah, so Sea Shepherd was founded in 1977, and I feel like it filled a vacuum back then because the main operative of how Sea Shepherd is working is through direct action, meaning that we don't hold demonstrations, meaning that we don't, start petitions and stuff like that. But we are out there with our very own fleet, running our own fleet with the support of many amazing volunteers, and are just directly on the front lines of ocean conservation, fighting, for example, illegal fishing back in the day when it started, fighting illegal whaling in the Southern Ocean. And that is what we're still doing today, fighting illegal operations off the coast of West Africa, in the Mediterranean Sea, but also far away in the Pacific, where we, for example, just started a campaign in Tuvalu this year. So it's been a great journey of just direct action and ocean conservation.
Yeah, amazing. And as you said, you have a fleet of ships. How are those financed? By the donations of the people that support Sea Shepherd?
So seeing that Sea Shepherd is an NGO, we absolutely rely on the generosity of our donors. Of course, there are some bigger donors, but the vast majority of donors is just people who give 10, 20, 50, up to 100 euro per month because they feel like that's the way to go, that our approach to ocean conservation is the way to go. And therefore, without the support of the many people who give and contribute, it wouldn't be possible to keep the fleet running.
Yeah. And most people working on the boats, they're all volunteers, right?
Yes.
So they're not getting paid. They're giving their time because they know that's an important cause.
Absolutely. So that is actually part of my job. I mean, the work with Sea Shepherd Austria is all voluntary work. That is something I do in my free time. So in my day-to-day job, I talk to people who want to crew on board the ships, and the vast majority of people there are volunteers. Of course, there are positions on board the ship where you have to ensure that they are filled by professionals who come back regularly. So positions in the engine room, for example, or on the bridge, where you just have to ensure that a certain quality is held and that you have professionals working there. But like I said, the vast majority are volunteers who just say they have 4 weeks up to, 3-4 months, and they want to donate their time and join a ship, join a fleet, and just help us in our efforts to protect the ocean. And we have people working as deckhands. So I always tell people the deckhands are kind of heart and soul of the ship. They keep the day-to-day business running on board the ship. We have people in the galley who help prepare fantastic plant-based food. I just visited 2 of our ships 2 weeks ago, and I very much miss the food, I have to say, because it's just amazing what they can do in our galleys. But we also have media personnel on board our ship, so people who are versatile in photography and videography, because we can have the best efforts, but we also have to make sure that we document everything that is going on out there to inform people about the work we do, and to inform people which threats our ocean is facing and what we can do about it.
Yeah, definitely. And how does Sea Shepherd Global coordinate its mission across countries, and what are some examples of impactful campaigns they've led? So
Sea Shepherd Global is coordinating the fleet of the Sea Shepherd ships. Of course, there are many different chapters, for example, in Austria, in Germany, in Spain, in Switzerland, in Italy. And they are all individual chapters who work together to ensure that the global campaigns can be run. And what Sea Shepherd Global is doing with the campaigns, they happen, like I mentioned before, pretty much all over the planet. So one of the very successful campaigns we have been doing is the IUU campaign, so campaigns against illegal, unregulated, and undocumented fishing in West Africa. We're up to close to 100 arrests since these campaigns have started. And that is definitely a success story, because what we saw there is that countries really want to fight illegal fishing in their national waters, because it's also a matter of survival for their own people. If you have local fishing communities who depend on these fishing stocks, but the fishing stocks are emptied by large super trawlers that come in from foreign countries, it's about their survival there. So what we are doing is Sea Shepherd Global provides these countries with a ship and with a crew who have experience in fighting illegal fishing. And the partner countries give us their marine soldiers, for example, or Coast Guard, and we patrol their national waters and look out for illegal fishing operations, potentially illegal fishing operations, and then board these ships, check out what's going on board, check out the documents, check out the loading bay. Also see what's going on with the crew, because oftentimes illegal fishing operations go along with devastating circumstances. The crew is living on board the ships, with drug smuggling and illegal weapon smuggling, stuff like that. So everything that is going on the ship is controlled by us, and if we find anything illegal, the ship is detained and will be brought to the next port. And like I said, we are close to 100 arrests with this way of operating, and it definitely is a success story. Another thing I want to mention is the campaigns in the Mediterranean Sea, which is just within a very short amount of time. With this campaign, we managed to help the local population of Mediterranean monk seals to flourish again, because in the Mediterranean Sea, there is a small population actually in Greece of Mediterranean monk seals, and one of their main food sources are octopus, but they are also caught illegally. So what Sea Shepherd has been doing there is to retrieve illegal octopus traps. We started this, I think, 3 years back now, and within 1 year we saw that the use of illegal fishing gear and illegal octopus traps fell by 50%, and within 2 years the Mediterranean monk seal population started spreading out again up to small islands in front of Tuscany in Italy. So it just shows the direct impact we can have with very small but very effective operations that we do.
That's great. So I have a couple of questions now.
Yes.
Going back to the, like, you have to do like some kind of surveillance, I guess, when you when you want to do something about the illegal fishing, then I guess you need to have some kind of proof. And from what I know from South America, that usually most of it happens at night. Is that the same case there? And if so, how do you record it at night, or how do you get proof then? Because I know from a specific example there that they then use satellites, but they need high quality satellites to identify the ships. How do you do that?
Yeah, so satellite surveillance is a fantastic technology, and helps immensely with recon, and helps immensely with just finding out areas in which illegal operations might be happening. The problem with satellite surveillance is that you still don't have physical evidence. So from our point of view, you can't not be there, because you have to be there. You have to have the physical evidence. You have to be on that ship. You have to see the fishing equipment, because illegal fishing doesn't mean that they are, let me put it this way, illegal fishing means 1,000 things at the same time, because even a fishing boat with a license in the correct area they are operating in can be fishing illegally if the net, for example, is too small, so smaller fish can't escape. They can be fishing illegally in areas that are reserved for local fisheries. They can be fishing illegally with a license for tuna and then be fishing for sharks, for example, for the fins and for the shark liver oil. So illegal fishing means many different things at the same time, and you can't secure that evidence by just looking at it with satellite surveillance. So we are there. Of course, when it comes to night operations, we have to rely on our camera, seeing that the camera is this instrument or the instrument to secure the evidence that we need, to make sure that we have the right ships that are operating illegally, to make sure that we document what type of species are on board the ship, to make sure that we document what type of fishing gear they are using. So being directly out there, and that is why I am 100% convinced by the direct action and by the being in the field approach. There is just no, up to this point, at this moment in time, there is no real replacement for being out there directly and being on the ship and checking out what is going on. Of course, instruments like satellite surveillance are a great help, but it doesn't replace being out there.
No, definitely not. I think some countries just can't afford to have the Coast Guard out there then as well.
Yeah.
And are you simultaneously out there with the Coast Guard, or are you seeing it and then you're calling them? Because I guess you cannot just go on a ship and say, hey, I'm Sea Shepherd, I'm here now, I want to board your ship, and they just let
Absolutely.
you.
So that depends on the campaign. For example, in Italy, in Sicily, we have campaigns where we don't have a ship, but when where we have a campaign to secure a marine protected area down there, and there we have to call in the Coast Guard. There we have to call in the authorities so they can go out with the ship or with their boat and check out what's going on. In West Africa, for example, we secure this by having these cooperations with local governments, for example, in the Gambia, in Benin, in Liberia. So having these soldiers from them on board our ship gives us the authority of boarding the ships, because we basically just provide them with a ship and the crew, because many of these countries, like I mentioned before, want to fight illegal fishing, but just don't have the means. Or for example, in Tuvalu, where we had the last campaign against illegal fishing in the Pacific, their fishing patrol ship was destroyed during heavy weathers. So they just didn't have a ship anymore. And that's where we come in. We provide them with our ship, with our crew. They give us their soldiers on board. And therefore, that gives us the authority of going up to a ship, boarding them. Of course, there is a radio call. There is a procedure that has to be followed. There's radio contact with the ship that is about to be boarded. Then a small boat drives over. So our small boat with our boarding crew and the soldiers drives over. The soldiers board the ship first to secure the ship, to make sure that everything is safe for our crew, and then our crew goes on board the ship. We check the documents, we check the loading bay, we check the fishing equipment, we talk to the crew on board the ship, and then the whole process is running.
Okay. And about the monk seal, are you specifically at like certain places right now, and are you going further up north as well? For example, I know in Croatia there also were some, but out there aren't really any more, or not much anymore.
We have two campaigns, or we were leading two campaigns that were focusing on the protection of the Mediterranean monk seal. One led by Sea Shepherd Greece in the Alonissos National Park and Marine Park in Greece, where the population is living. And there they are fighting against illegal fishing, because also there illegal trawlers come in, but they also do beach cleanups, because marine debris and ghost nets, ghost equipment, so fishing gear that has been discarded overboard the ship, is threatening these populations. But at the same time, like I mentioned before, with the campaigns in Italy, we are retrieving illegal octopus traps, because the octopus is the main food source for the Mediterranean monk seal. So those are the two fronts that we are fighting on to save the Mediterranean monk seal. But let's see what the future brings.
Yeah. And how do these octopus traps look like? How can I imagine that?
So the octopus traps, octopus is they are super intelligent. I don't know if you've seen my octopus teacher. That is absolutely amazing. It just shows, it just absolutely shows how magnificent these animals are and how intelligent
they are.
So one of the main traits of the octopus is actually used against them with these octopus traps, because they are trying to hide when they are in danger. And these octopus traps are basically large pots that are being lowered onto the seabed. And on it, there is a line. There is one main line with many, many smaller lines. And on these smaller lines, there is this pot. It is being lowered down to the seabed. And to the octopus, it's basically the perfect hiding place. So it goes in there. It has its little hiding place in there. Maybe lays eggs in there. Then when the net or when this line is pulled out, the octopus it doesn't flee out of the trap, because it's trying to hide even more inside. So the trait that they are trying to hide is used against them, and just this main line is pulled out, and then the octopus is out there. So what we are doing is we find these lines, we pull out these lines, and we cut off pot by pot, check if an octopus is in there. If one is in there, it gets flushed out. We pour in water and gently release it back into the ocean. And if there are eggs in there, we just cut the line and put the pot back in, because then it falls down, the eggs can hatch and everything is safe, but at least they can't be pulled out. With the pots where there are no eggs inside, and when the octopus is flushed out, we keep that and we hand it over to the authorities so they can process it accordingly.
Okay, good. And have you had any experience with fishermen that are like not really liking the seals or also dolphins? Because when I did the film Mediterranean, where we met, I was also talking with a scientist who told me that in France there are fishermen that went on to kill dolphins and seals because they thought it's competition to their fishing. Did you experience that somewhere?
Yeah, that still happens, unfortunately. That, of course, not overfishing and pollution and whatever it is the reason that fish stocks are plummeting. But natural predators are the problem. So natural predators are being hunted and killed. That is the absolute logical step here. Of course, I'm being sarcastic just to make sure. But
that's why I'm laughing.
We also meet fishermen who are actually very thankful for the work we're doing.
That's good.
Which is great, because what we're doing is we fight illegal fishing. And we retrieve illegal octopus traps. So there are fishermen who see the necessity to fight illegal fishing, because let's face it, the oceans are overfished. We're almost there, that there's not much left in there. 90% of global fish stocks are either overexploited or definitely overfished already. And the Mediterranean Sea is the most overfished sea in the world. So we have an issue there. And people are noticing. Also, we talk to divers who have been diving for maybe 30 years, who tell us there's nothing down there anymore. It's just a bare wasteland. So while we still see that some people are fighting what we are doing or trying to fight what we're doing, we also see massive support, because people are noticing the change, and it's not a good change.
Yeah. And are you working a lot with governments and also maybe trying to make new laws for the protection of the marine environment?
Yes and no. So Sea Shepherd is a non-governmental organization. Meaning that we are not dependent on any government. But while we started off as this direct action group that was enforcing international law, we now have the chance to also enforce national law. Because if we fight illegal fishing in national waters, we definitely have the jurisdiction on our side. And it is a fantastically effective way to fight illegal fishing. At the same time, we're also, of course, fighting illegal fishery, and that is where we come into where we need to make new laws. Just recently, we've been down to Antarctica again for the second time, exposing unfortunately legal krill fishery. And these krill fisheries literally suck out these small crustaceans, shrimp-like crustaceans that are basically the foundation of the whole ecosystem in Antarctica, and they're doing so legally. So there we can't go in and arrest them. We can't go in and pull out their fishing gear because what they're doing is legal. So we need the law on our side here. That is why this is one example where we need to change existing laws and where we are trying to implement marine protected areas in Antarctica. So we have the law on our side and we can then enforce it. That is the two fronts we are fighting on. On the one hand, illegal fishing that is happening already, where the law is already on our side, but also legal fisheries where we have to change the law first before we can then go to the next step.
Yeah. I think talking about something being legal that maybe shouldn't be, you've recently been to the Faroe Islands and witnessed long-finned pilot whales and white-sided dolphins getting massacred because of something called the grind in English. Can you tell us why you went there and what your experience was?
Sure. So the grind is a century-long tradition in the Faroe Islands being a small group of islands somewhere in the middle between Scotland, Norway, and Iceland. So a very isolated group of islands in the North Atlantic. And the grind is the traditional hunt for, like you said, long white-sided dolphins and pilot whales. Which means when a grind is called, when a pod of whales is spotted near the islands, they hop into their motorboats, they drive out, they drive in the whole pod to a designated killing beach. They have these beaches on the island they can use for these killings. And as soon as they're close enough to shore, people from land run in. They have these blowhole hooks, the large metal hooks with a metal ball at the end. They hook these in the blowholes of the animals, and these hooks are attached to long ropes. They pull them out of the water and then kill the animals. Sea Shepherd has been fighting the cruelty of the grind for many, many decades by now. And what we are seeing there is that it is still upheld under the label of tradition. Because in the past it was a very, very important food source for the people in the Faroe Islands. Because seeing that they are an isolated group of islands in the North Atlantic, they didn't have any trade. You can't have agriculture there. That is, if you are there. So basically, my summer was 10 degrees, rain and fog. So that is not the best climate for sustainable agriculture. So back in the day, they actually needed the grind. Today, they have shops filled with products from Spain over Greece up to Denmark. They have fantastic trade agreements, and they actually have a very, very high standard of living. So the grind today is sport and is tradition. And what we are doing there is, like you said, unfortunately, it is legal too. So we can't interfere. If we do, we tried that in the past. It led to a huge amount of animosity and just hostility, and we are still not their favorites there. So many people are not in favor of us being there. But what we're doing is still, when a grind is called, we go out and we document what is going on, because people need to see. People all over the world need to see what is going on there, because it is. I mean, I've seen many videos and many photos of the grind before, but when you're there, when you hear the screams of the animals, because it is agonizing. The hunt to the beach can last up to 3 or 4 hours. When they arrive at the killing beach, they are exhausted. They are in panic. Of course, they are in fear of their life. They are highly intelligent creatures, and they know what's going on. And depending on the size of the beach and how many people are there, they are basically waiting in line to be slaughtered, while they are hearing the cries of their family members. So it is hard to watch. It is the smell there. The air is filled with thick scent of blood. So it is definitely something to witness. But we also have been talking to people, because last year when I was there, when I witnessed my first grind, I talked to a local, and the opinion on the grind is, I feel like, slightly shifting in the population, because especially a younger generation is like, we don't want to be associated with this in the world. We don't want people, when they hear feral, it's a beautiful place. It is magnificent when you're there. The nature, the landscape, it is absolutely beautiful and stunning. And especially the younger generation doesn't want people internationally, when they hear Faroe Islands, they don't want the first connection to be, bloodshed and cruelty. And when there is no grind happening, we do beach cleanups. And just this year, when we did a beach cleanup, a young family with 2 young children actually came up to us and started talking to us. And we were wearing the Sea Shepherd hoodies, the crew hoodies, just to show who we are. And we don't mean any harm, because there is this fairy tale on the Faroes that we are terrorists and we are outsiders who want to mess with their traditions. We just have a fundamentally different opinion on the grind, but we want to leave a positive impact with the community. So we do a beach cleanup, and this young family comes up, and the children actually start helping to clean the beach and collect trash, and we just started talking to the family, and they are thankful for what we're doing. And I think we see some positive change there, and I think this is what it needs there, also because it is a legal thing that is happening with the grind. So the change has to come from within. I'm absolutely sure this is nothing that can be pressured on them from the outside. The change also has to come from within. And that's how we will manage to achieve some sustainable positive impact, by just talking to the people, and slowly shifting the narrative.
Yeah, change is definitely needed, because according to Stop the Grind, so far in 2024 until October, almost 600 long-finned pilot whales have been killed and 153 white-sided dolphins. It is unbelievable to me that people can kill these animals and have their whole families watch. I've really seen kids in the blood soup there with their fathers, which it is mostly men slaughtering them.
It is.
And it's, as you said, they're not killing it for food anymore,
no.
And it's not healthy neither. Pilot whale meat and blubber has been found to have high risk of mercury, PCBs, and other toxins due to ocean pollution. So it really doesn't make sense to kill them. Besides, pilot whales and dolphins are highly intelligent, social marine mammals, display a range of emotions, have advanced cognitive abilities, they can form social bonds, have empathy, a maternal bond, feel stress and fear, they are self-aware, can solve problems, have complex communication and emotional intelligence, mourning behavior, and can work in teams. The advanced emotional and cognitive lives of these animals have been a central argument against the Grinda-trap, I think, as they say there.
Exactly. Yeah.
And scientists argue that hunting species with such complex inner lives can cause immense suffering, not only for the individuals that are killed, but also for the surviving pod members, if there are any, who may experience great grief and trauma. And did you talk with the people hunting there? What were they saying? I mean, you told us one good example, but what are the people saying that are actually doing it?
Vast majority of people are ignoring us. But of course, last year when I was there were people spitting at us. Actually, one person, one car drove directly towards us and just steered away in the last moment. So there is some hostility there. Quickly picking up what you said about the complex emotional life, that is part of the reason why oftentimes people ask me, but why don't the others flee? Why don't they swim away when they see what is happening? And their complex social life and their complex emotional bonds are the reason for that, because they don't abandon the rest of their pod. And mentioning surviving animals, actually this year in summer, there was one grind where the people participating in the grind massively underestimated the size of the pod. And basically in the middle of the killing said, okay, we don't have any resources anymore. We just stop now. And around 90 whales remained in the bay, remained in this fjord, completely exhausted, both physically and of course emotionally, witnessing the killing of their family members. Stuck there for several hours during the whole night, and on the next day started beaching themselves because they were just so. The crew on the ground said it felt like they just wanted to end it themselves because they were at the end of their strength. And this, of course, is illegal too, because seeing that the grind is legal, there is a legal framework, and they have to operate within this legal framework. And that definitely was illegal. And we hope something comes from it, because we of course, wanted to take the legal steps there. But again, it is something that is within their community and within their legal power to change things here. And yeah, I for one will definitely go back, and I will continue that fight.
Yeah. And in that case where they just left the other animals, could then someone go there and try to push them back out or help them if they were beaching themselves?
One of our volunteers tried that.
Anyone allowed?
Because legally speaking, the grind was over. Because during the grind, if you're not participating in the grind, it is illegal to approach the animals. From a legal standpoint, at that point in time, the grind was over. So one of our volunteers actually tried to push them in again. And a man drove up, pushed our volunteers away, and killed the animals. And that again was illegal because the grind was over, and you are not allowed to kill these animals outside of the grind.
What are your emotions then? If someone just comes up and does that, I think I couldn't handle it, to be honest. I would be so angry with humans. It's
oftentimes we're also criticized because we're only there documenting.
But if it's legal to do something,
I myself have been faced with that criticism, because people are like, it is. They said it like cowards. We're just standing there holding the camera.
It doesn't help if you get imprisoned.
I can promise that's the one thing we can interfere, but then our equipment is seized. We are imprisoned, and the pod gets killed anyway, just without the world seeing it. So that is the one thing. But the other thing is, I can guarantee it takes all the strength you have to just stand there and have to witness that. Because people who are going there direly want the grind to end. And for them to have to stand there and witness that, it's excruciating. But it is what we have to do as part of the whole campaign to put this to an end once and for all.
Yeah. Do you think a good goal would be to talk with the new generations, the children and the teens, and maybe see if you can go to schools or hold events for them, not even to show that the grind is wrong, but to show what incredible animals they are and that they don't deserve this and that shouldn't happen. I feel like if you can make the kids understand how great these animals are and how beautiful, and it really doesn't need this, I feel like then maybe there can be a change, because I feel like those men that do that, you can't change their mind anymore. I've seen interviews where they were like, oh, it's not even as bad as fishing. I only kill like 2 whales instead of taking out hundreds of kilos of fish. And that's not a good argument. But I feel like it's hard to change their minds. But maybe the new generations you can do something about.
It's definitely something worth trying, and it's definitely something we will try in the future. The thing is, of course, you can't be sneaky with that. You can't go to a school and say, I'm this or that, and at the end of like, hey, we're Sea Shepherd, and we just fooled all of you.
No.
So you have to be upfront with what you're doing. You have to be honest with the work you're doing. And at the moment, I don't think there are many schools who would be like, yeah, let's have Sea Shepherd have a presentation at our school. So it is a slow process. It is something we have to take step by step. And if you've watched Seaspiracy, the grind is also part of the documentary there. And one of the spokespeople for the grind also said, and that is one argument they absolutely love, don't criticize us for the grind if you're still eating meat, because at least the animals we kill during the grind have lived freely their whole life, and then they get driven in and then they get killed. But the animals you are eating are killed in slaughterhouses, raised in captivity, stuff like that. So for them, it is actually, they frame the grind as something merciful. They frame the grind as something, as if it's part of a natural law and something you can't change. That is why we're also often asked, when we are there and document the grind, they ask if we were vegan, and if you'd say no, because if you tell them yes, I live vegan, at least they're like, okay, you're consequent in what you're doing. You're like, you walk the talk. If you would say, and that's why oftentimes also if you see the posts on social media, people from the Faroes or from Denmark or Norway or just in general people who support whaling and the grind are like, oh, I hope all these people crying in the comments here are vegans, because if not, you've almost cursed there, you're just hypocrites. So it is a slow process. It is a lot of conversations to be held. But I still am convinced it's the way to go, and we will keep going.
And do you have any facts about if they really still are eating it, or how much of it they're even using? Because I feel like I've seen something that they really don't use much of it, especially not for eating. Like humans don't really eat much of it. I've heard it goes like to animal food, or a lot of it gets like thrown out. So
yeah,
do you have any statistics, any facts?
They claim they use everything, but what we see is they cut out the flanks of the animals, and a lot of it gets thrown out, so bones and stuff like that doesn't get used anymore. They have this system of how they provide basically the whole islands with the meat and the blubber, but also from the health standpoint that you mentioned before, it is not even recommended to consume too much of it because of the mercury.
Even from their own government.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think the last survey was in 2019 when they found out that the mercury levels in the blood of people in the Faroes are twice as high as the absolute limit you should have. So pregnant people and people who want to have children in the future are advised to not consume it at all, because it's so harmful or potentially harmful. And of course, it's also carcinogenic. So it can cause many problems in the future. So a lot of it isn't consumed. I wouldn't be able to give numbers on how it is processed in animal food. But yeah, also what we're seeing is they throw out a lot of it. Because what we're trying to do is we document the drive up until the last body touches the water again, because they either load it up on trucks and throw it over the cliffs, or they hook it up to a boat, drag it out to the sea, and then just let it float there. And there's a lot. There is a lot. If they last time, so the when I was there and filmed the Grind last year, they had 2 full truckloads of carcasses that were dumped back into the ocean. So, and they're not juveniles and young animals aren't used at all. So they just dump them back in. And they also argue that it's sustainable anyways, because the pilot whale is not an endangered species. So it's not unsustainable to have the Grind. They kill female animals. They kill juveniles. They kill whole pods. And the thing with actually many animals in the sea is that it takes a long time until they reproduce. There are some shark species that can take up to 30 or 40 years until they are in an age where they can reproduce, and maybe just get 1 or 2 babies in 10 years, 5 to 10 years. So, and there are many different factors that also have to be taken into consideration. We heard about the heat waves in the Atlantic and also in the Mediterranean Sea that are impacting the populations there. So there are so many things that we even can't take into consideration yet, because we don't have all the facts on the table. But still something like this is happening. So I think there is absolutely no argument for the Grind, but very many arguments against it.
Let's change a bit away from the Grind. Sea Shepherd has a strong media presence and often uses storytelling in its campaigns. How do you think storytelling helps convey the urgency of ocean conservation?
So I mentioned before that as a child, the vastness of the ocean was one of the main fascinations for me for the ocean. I think the vastness of the ocean, so 3/4 of our planet are covered by ocean, is also one of the main issues we are fighting, because it's so big, we can't comprehend how big it is, and that's just the surface. And then you have to go in there and deep down. So it is very hard to explain to people why we have to protect something that is so big. It is very hard for some people to understand that we as a human species can have an impact on that. So we have to think about and break it down. How can we tell the story of ocean conservation so people understand? And I think that is where it comes together with the storytelling. We tell the story of 1 or 2 whales that are entangled in a large fishing net in West Africa. We tell the story of the individual octopus that we free from a trap in the Mediterranean Sea. We tell the story of a fisherman in a slum living on the coast of West Africa who is trying to feed his family and doesn't have any other option other than going out and catching a few fish and coming back in, that basically faces death if illegal fishing doesn't stop in that region. So we tell stories of individuals, be it human or non-human animals, And these stories stand for the bigger picture, because every little story is ocean conservation when you sum it up. And as Peter Hammerstedt often says, is save a life, save the world. In another podcast I was invited to a few weeks back, we also talked about the how don't you lose hope, and how don't you feel like it's just too much. And I think the telling of the story of each and every individual is the answer to that. Because while you can't save all of them, you're saving the world for each and every individual. By saving the life of one fish, one whale, one seal, one octopus, you're saving the whole world for this animal. And we just keep doing that. And we keep telling the story about how we're doing it.
That's nicely said. And are there any specific films, documentaries, or media campaigns by Sea Shepherd that have had a particularly strong impact?
So, especially in I hope I don't offend anyone, older generation, they know us from the whale wars. They know us from these, from the TV show where we fight illegal whaling in the Southern Ocean. For a younger generation, it probably is Seaspiracy. Many people saw Seaspiracy on Netflix, where Ali Tabrizi is just, I think, in a fantastic way telling the bigger issue of ocean conservation and breaks it down on different subjects of ocean conservation. So after Seaspiracy, we definitely saw a spike in donations and also people who want to volunteer. That effect was got lost again. Of course, it's just a peak in interest, and then we are back to our normal. But just this year, sorry, we had the film Return to Antarctica at the Ocean Film Tour, the International Ocean Film Tour. The film was produced by Sea Shepherd, by ourselves. It shows the journey back to Antarctica to fight the legal krill fishing fleet I mentioned before. So these are definitely things to check out. Other than that, there is Sea of Shadows that shows the fight for the survival of the vaquita in Mexico.
Yeah.
But if I had to name one, I think Seaspiracy is definitely a good place to start, because it really, if I had never ever in my life before have read about ocean conservation, or if I've never thought about ocean conservation, Seaspiracy is just a very, very good and easy way into the subject to understand it on a broader topic, but also it very well picks out individual problems that can be challenged, because I think the film also shows how individuals can help to save the ocean.
Yeah, it definitely handles a lot of topics in one film. So if someone hasn't researched anything yet, then I think you can get to know a lot of it in that one film. And I think it's still available on Netflix, right?
It is.
Everyone with a Netflix subscription can go and watch it.
And of course, there are your films, and that are showing also on a very personal and I would say almost fragile level, how intimate our relationship with the ocean is. And what is going on beneath our feet if we are if we are on holiday and are on a gravel beach in Croatia, and just it is magnificent. So
thank you.
Whoever hasn't seen your films, I hope everyone who is listening to your podcast has seen your films. But it's just it gives one a nice feeling thinking about ocean conservation when we watch your films and see what's going on.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of great independent filmmakers out there, which their films should be also watched more. I know a lot of amazing filmmakers, and the films are not on Netflix, so maybe not as many people can see it. But yeah, definitely if you look around, there are so many stories to be told. So yeah, that's definitely something I can recommend. Maybe I can link some different films and also books underneath, so everyone that's interested in ocean conservation, they can go and look also the Sea Shepherd films. And yeah. But let's get a little bit back from the ocean to Austria. As you're the director of Sea Shepherd Austria, how do we here contribute to global missions, especially being a landlocked country?
I mentioned before that Sea Shepherd Austria was founded 11 years ago. I've been a part of it for 6 years now. And within these 6 years, I can't even count how many times I've been asked, why is there an ocean conservation group in Austria? But there are many ways how we can contribute, how we are actually contributing to the destruction of the ocean, but also how we can contribute to saving the ocean. One of which is just don't buy anything that comes from the ocean and don't eat it. That is, I think, actually the by far easiest way anyone can contribute to ocean conservation.
Would you say seaweed as well?
Seaweed, okay, let's say anything living from the ocean, because of course seaweed, for example, in food supplements, when it comes to omega-3, for example, is a great substitute for to replace the fish that has to be killed for, or also krill, because krill is also used for food supplements, or mainly used for food supplements. So seaweed definitely is a great substitute. But I myself have been living vegan for 6 years. That is a decision I've made for myself, and it took me 27 years to figure it out. So I'm in no position to tell people how to live, how to eat. But I haven't felt better before, and the only thing I regret about it is not doing it sooner. So, but if people ask me what kind of fish can I eat without destroying the ocean, I tell them buy local. If you have to eat fish, if you want to eat fish, please at least buy something local that doesn't come from the ocean, because 1 in every 5 fish in the ocean is caught illegally. And there's no way of telling if that one on your plate is caught legally or illegally. So if you want to stick to eating fish, maybe buy something local. What we do in Austria also is we have river cleanups, because of course every single piece of trash that doesn't end up in a river also in the end doesn't end up in the ocean. So if people want to participate in that, we always announce our cleanups on both Facebook and Instagram on our Sea Shepherd Austria pages. And they can just come along and help us clean the Danube in Vienna or the Mur in Graz. And of course, like I mentioned before, we are dependent on the generosity of people. So if people in Austria want to contribute to ocean conservation, and if they think that what we're doing is worth of their support, we are very happy if you support us financially, and check out seashepherdaustria.at. There you can directly click on the donation link. You can be a monthly donor, then also have access to the fantastic Ocean Warrior program from Sea Shepherd Global, where you get exclusive sneak peeks behind the scenes, or talks with Captain Peter Hammerstedt and Captain Alex Cornelissen, the CEO of Sea Shepherd Global. So that is definitely also a way how people in Austria can contribute to ocean conservation.
Amazing. As you said, you've been vegan for 6 years now, and I've been vegan for 11 years. Do you have any recipe that you feel like it kind of reminds you of the taste of fish, but it isn't. Do you have, like, I know it's not like really ocean conservation, it's more like recipe now, but I feel like if there's...
I actually am a big fan, and I hope product placement is okay here. I'm a big fan of Revo Foods. It's actually an Austrian brand who produce fantastic fish substitutes. They have salmon, they have tuna spread, and it's just, at least as far as I remember, the taste of salmon and tuna, it comes very close to that. So check them out.
Nice. Yeah, I've seen that recipe many years ago to use chickpeas and like vegan mayo, parsley and onions, and like mash that together and put it in a toast, and it's like a tuna sandwich for the vegan. Because I don't really love exactly the taste of fish, but it's like similar, and I feel like that tastes good. So if you wanna try that out, I guess if you Google vegan chickpea fish sandwich as alternative to
also very healthy.
Fish. Yeah. And as you said, you're doing a lot of river cleanups. What would you say is what you mostly find in rivers? Like what trash, and what are things you can't see that are in rivers, but how we are polluting it from land and it's still bad?
So what we mainly find during cleanups, and it's just incredible to me how we still find so many cigarette butts, because of course if people want to smoke, that is absolutely up to them, their decision. But please, if you're finished with your cigarette, don't just snip it into the environment, because it's extremely toxic waste. It both harms the water, and also if it lands if it remains on land. So just dispose of it in a responsible way. Plastic bottles and beer cans, stuff like that, is also something we very often find during our cleanups, and is of course, with plastic we have the problem of macro and microplastics. And the thing with plastic is it never goes away. So once plastic is in the water, it just disintegrates and gets smaller and smaller and smaller, but it never goes away, which leads to us consuming the worth of one credit card microplastics and the amount of one credit card per week, so up to 5 grams per week. So yeah, maybe we shouldn't throw away plastics like that then. But of course, because you mentioned something that we can't see, what we can't clean up during our river cleanups is pollution through agriculture, for example, where when there is too much of agriculture in a region, then it can actually kill the whole aquatic ecosystem. Which then, if that goes into the ocean, leads to so-called ocean dead zones. There is one very, very, very large one in the Mississippi Delta, because of all the agriculture and all the manure that gets washed into the ocean. There is just no oxygen left in the water, and just so much manure that you mainly have algae blooming there, and nothing else can survive in these areas. That's why they are called dead zones. And the number of dead zones in the ocean is growing. So this is also something that is very harmful, and that we have to keep in mind when we talk about ocean pollution.
And in Vienna, the new bit has this city jet, I think, city liners, the fast boat
to Bratislava.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Do you think that has like consequences to the marine life, as it like sucks in the water and then it comes out again. And it has some consequences also for birds that put their eggs there. But what do you think are consequences for the fish and marine life?
Last year, we had a river cleanup in the Donauauen National Park. And during the cleanup, of course, we cleaned up in the small swamps they have there, and also cleaned up in the just along the Danube. And the ranger we had with us there actually talked to us about the boat because it rushed through during our cleanup, and they tried to convince the company that is hosting or offering this service to at least slow down when they go through, because of the speed. They have high waves that are crashing on shore, and in the shoreline on the Danube, you have fish and other animals laying their eggs and raising their young, and of course to them it's super harmful because the strong waves just crash the eggs or flush them out. So that is something that needs to be discussed, definitely.
What are the steps involved in becoming a volunteer or member of Sea Shepherd Austria, and what should people expect from the experience?
So if a listener wants to become a volunteer with Sea Shepherd Austria, they can head to our website, seashepherdaustria.at, where we have the forum where people can apply to become a volunteer. And what we do is we have several events per year. We have the big boat show in Tulln every spring. We are at the Vegan Manias, for example, the big vegan street food festivals, where we have our stalls and where we sell merchandise, because of also with selling merchandise and acquiring donations, we help running the fleet of Sea Shepherd Global. And our volunteers are hosting these events. Our volunteers are behind the tables. They sell our merch and they give out information. So that is something volunteers with us can do and will do. But we are also looking for people who are good with social media, who are good with graphic design, who can help us with that. So that is definitely something in the form. When they fill out the application, they can mention what type of qualifications and skills they have, and we can put everything to good use. There are many events throughout the year, so we are always looking for helping hands, and I can say it's great fun. It is great fun to be there with like-minded people, to talk to others who are interested in what we are doing, and I always enjoy it. And if you want to hang out with like-minded people and just be in a nice ocean conservation bubble for a few hours, send us your application and let's work together.
Great. And what do you think is the biggest challenge Sea Shepherd faces in carrying out its conservation work today?
I think we are living in a world that is facing more and more consequences of a rapidly changing climate. But at the same time, we have more and more people who don't want to acknowledge that. So I think that is a challenge that we have to address, to just make people aware of what is going on, because I always tell people ocean conservation is climate conservation, because the ocean is one of the main drivers of our world's climate. We saw what happened in Austria. We see what is happening in Spain because of a heated Mediterranean Sea with massive amounts of rain, and things are only bound to get worse rather than better in the next years. So ocean conservation is climate conservation, and climate conservation basically is just, it's saving human lives. So what we're up to is we want to save human lives by the means of ocean conservation. But of course, the ocean is such a fragile ecosystem that if we lose the ocean, we lose up to 50 to 80% of our oxygen supply on the planet, because the vast majority of oxygen that we are breathing in our atmosphere comes from the ocean. So battling ocean conservation is definitely just about our very own survival. And then there are just challenges when it comes to our ships need to be fueled. That is a sad reality. And fuel is expensive. Maintaining ships is expensive. So it is definitely something we have to keep in mind, that just through your generous donations, through the generous donations of our supporters, we can keep the work going, and we can keep our fleet running. So if you want to support us, please continue to do so.
I will link the website down in the show notes as well, so people can go and check out the website and make donations. And for the last question, in your view, what are the most impactful things individuals can do to help conserve the ocean?
One thing we mentioned before already is just don't consume animals that are from the ocean. That is, I think, the smallest change with the biggest impact you can do in your day-to-day life. Donating is a huge way, because, like I said, if 10, 20, 50 euros per month, if many people do that, that is a huge contribution to our efforts. And just spread the word, tell people about the work we are doing, and help us put out the word about ocean conservation, about the work we are doing. If coming back to the Grind, if people want to help us stop the Grind, they can head to stopthegrind.org and become part of the Stop the Grind coalition. They can donate on seashepherd.at or seashepherdsglobal.org. Like I said, become part of the Ocean Warrior program, and just help through their monthly donations. They can donate time by becoming volunteers on shore, but also by going to a ship as a volunteer. Sea Shepherd Global is always looking for passionate volunteers who want to join the fleet too. So there are many ways, and I think for each and every person on the planet, there's this one thing they actually can do to help us in our efforts. We just have to find the thing that is perfect for them, and we're more than happy to do that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the whole conversation.
Thanks for having me.
I hope that many people are going to look more into Sea Shepherd and all the efforts you're doing to conserve the ocean. And I hope to talk with you soon again. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.